Frenchwoman Florence Cassé, 38-year-old, who'd been convicted for being part of a kidnapping ring. Many flaws in the procedure, the Supreme Court overruling that. And it's the chance for us to talk more broadly about fighting crime in Mexico with our guest, Miguel Martinez, Paris correspondent for Uno Noticias TV. Thank you for being with us. Welcome back as well to Jean-Marc Sanchez of the Paris Bar's Franco-Hispanic Commission, and Frederick T. Davis, Paris attorney, former federal prosecutor in the United States. And joining us from London, he's the former Latin America editor of The Independent, Colin Harding of Latin Forum. Welcome back to all of you. Just before the break, we were going over the Calderon strategy over dealing with crime and with drug lords. And of course, the most famous drug lord, he's still at large, is Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the cocaine kingpin of the Mexican Sinaloa cartel. El Chapo, or Shorty, he may be short in size, but according to Forbes, he's Mexico's 10th richest man, which ranks him in the top 100 most powerful people, number 63 on their list on the planet. And again, you heard just before the break, Colin Harding, the description of Miguel Martinez of just how all that drug money goes through society in Mexico. What can a new president do?
Well, one of the negative aspects, if you like, of the Calderon policy was that the civilian population, the population of Mexico, paid a very high price for the frontal military assault on the big drug cartels. A lot of innocent bystanders were involved, were killed. The body count, as we've heard, is absolutely terrifying. Something like 70,000 people killed since the military's policy was introduced in 2006. So the incoming government, at least as their stated policy, is to try and to protect the population, to not have a complete 180-degree change. They're still going to go after the criminals, but very much so. But they're going to try and modulate the policy and rely much more on intelligence, on investigation, on respect for human rights, to introduce a subtler and, if you like, a more intelligent, for want of a better word, policy, which they hope will protect the population from the dreadful impact of the violence which has been spiraling in the last few years.
So what is a more intelligent policy? What can you do concretely?
Well, they're reorganizing the way they pursue the policy. One of the leading aspects of the proposed changes is the creation of a national gendarmerie. They're going to try and get the military to step back. There's going to be a 10,000-strong national gendarmerie created, which a lot of them will be probably former federal policemen who've lost their jobs due to the reorganization. And they will be in charge of sort of patrolling, of protection of the population, while the federal police go more for investigation, for intelligence work. So, of course, this is just administrative changes on one level, and it's not clear at all this is going to lead to any real improvements, but that is the stated aim, to try and get the military out of the picture and they hope, reduce the level of violence.
Mexico's homicide rate, which, by the way, set another record in 2012, more than 12,400 gang-related killings, says The Economist. Now, if there's a silver lining, it's signs that the rate is stabilizing in some of the areas, as you can see on the map of Mexico there, that are in red, that are the most hard hit by it, like the Texas border town of Ciudad Juarez. But is that only because, well, the Sinaloa cartel has beaten its rivals into submission in those places?
They work there, and for example, with the commentary law, I think in Mexico now with the intelligence policy, for example, they need to restructure all the police, and also we need to say now that, for example, the DEA in United States don't trust in any corporation in Mexico. So they send information only, I think, in the Navy, Mexican Navy, yes. And we need to, the new government need to have more a better policy to have the confiance in
The confidence of
the confidence to work with the United States.
to work hand in hand with the United States. Jean-Marc Sanchez, the way Miguel is describing it, it sounds like an impossible task.
Well, it's very difficult, especially if, just like you mentioned before, all the drug traffic is related to the demand from the United States. So basically, the Mexicans cannot do anything by themselves. If you take, for an example, the AFI, Agencia Federal de Investigaciones, is nothing but the local Mexican FBI. But the American FBI do not collaborate with his Mexican counterparts. You've got the same problems with the US Border Patrol. I mean, everybody knows where the problem comes from. The problem is only a matter of money and poverty. The more you will have traffic on the one side, the more you will have demand on the other side. And I'm afraid that things will get worse if nothing is done on both sides.
And this case that was brought to light about HSBC laundering money, is that going to change perceptions and views? Is that going to change things? The fact that the federal authorities in the U.S. maybe are going to go more after money launderers?
Well, I'm afraid that not even HSBC, but other banks or financial institutions worldwide can have similar problems, and I'm not sure that it's only in Mexico and with that very bank that this kind of things happen. Still, it can also happen anywhere, and including in the United States. I'm not sure that things will get any better if the system of collaboration or no cooperation between the two countries remain. The American government has a major interest in collaborating with the Mexican authorities to make things getting better. And still, this is the Monroe Doctrine since 200 years. I mean, the President Monroe, the fourth president of the United States, 200 years ago said, everything that happens in America is ours. So it's up to the United States government to rule in his garden.
Frederick Davis?
Well, there are limits to what the police can do. And I think one way of looking at it that's not central to the debate and maybe is on the margin is as follows, and that is what policing does ultimately is drive the price up. Because if you keep the supply down of something that many people want, you're going to drive the price up. And what that means is you're dangling an incentive in front of a huge number of people that is worth your taking the risk of getting caught, because as the price goes up, you can become really rich by taking those risks. And I think there's a beginning of some debate of saying, is it really worth doing that? With some drugs, the actual effect on the human body, for example, appears to be less than that of alcohol. And yet it is illegal, and the more you police, the more you drive the price up. I think we're beginning to see...
So what you're saying, in effect, is that the way the U.S. is helping deal with the problem is the debate about decriminalization.
Well, we're starting to see some of that. I mean, several states voted to decriminalize marijuana, as I mentioned earlier, and I think at the margins there's some thoughtful discussion given as to really why are we prosecuting all of these drugs. Others, of course, I think are highly toxic, and one has to have training. We have to diminish the demand by having people understand you're going to hurt yourself by taking this stuff. But as long as we simply say we're going to prosecute those who contribute to the supply, you're going to be driving the price up, and you're going to be keeping the incentive for people to keep putting stuff in the back of cars or across borders, whatever it takes to get the drugs where they get the most money for it.
There's the issue of where money can be made. One area where money is not being made as much as before is tourism. A few months back, France 24's correspondents went to Acapulco, and they sent back this report.
Do you remember Acapulco? Its famous divers and crystalline bay. 50 years ago, the Pearl of the Pacific attracted the most famous Hollywood stars, Liz Taylor, Frank Sinatra.
Kind of retro. I don't know, great beaches and the 50s.
A death toll of over 1,000 people killed in the city this year sank Acapulco into its worst season ever. Jonathan is a police agent. His mission this morning is to hand out leaflets to holiday tourists.
Hello, police. Please take this leaflet.
It's the Christmas holidays, the peak season here, but the crowd is 20% lower than last year. So the authorities are working extra hard to reassure tourists.
It says preventive measures on public roads, beaches, banks, clubs, and driving. You know, if I was scared, I wouldn't even go out the front door of my house.
With the arrival of 2,000 soldiers and police reinforcements, the crime rate has decreased for 2 months. Despite the calm, the resort's image has deteriorated.
Definitely bad for business. Miguel Martinez, what's your reaction when you see those images?
Something with this reportage. Yes, it's really, we have a big problem with the tourism, with all the tourist sector, but we need to, for the people also, we need to say the people that they're foreign tourists, French, Americans, it's not dangerous Mexico also. In the last 6 years, yes, we have it's an internal problem, very internal. We never see one hotel in Cancun, for example, or Los Cabos attacked for the cartel drugs. No, they don't operate in there. They operate in, for example, in Acapulco. I suppose the Acapulco is the town of Acapulco, not the tourist sector like Costera Miguel Alemán. It's like Cannes.
So in other words, it's a sort of parallel universes.
It's very, yes. And we have the hotel, for example, the hotel, and after that we have the town, where the Mexican live, where the Mexican tourists arrive, and there is the problem. But for the foreigners, yeah, the tourists, we don't have. It's safety for them.
It's safe for them. Colin Harding, your thoughts?
Well, Acapulco has become a center of a battleground between various drug organizations. Guerrero, the state of which Acapulco is part, has one of the highest murder rates in recent years, with cartels fragmenting, organizations trying to move in on each other's territory, and as consequently, these battles are going on in a place which has been one of the main tourist resorts. But I think it's true to say that the tourists are not themselves targeted. I think that'd be very unusual, but of course they are sometimes spectators to what is going on. It's not exactly helpful to Mexico's image as a good tourist destination to see these things happening.
Not good for the image. At the same time, you get a sense listening to what you both are saying that, Colin, that there's sort of this gated community mentality where this status quo can go on for a long time, it seems.
Well, people will protect themselves if they've got the resources. They'll protect themselves as much as they can. But this again is Peña Nieto's approach, that the emphasis in future, he says, will be on protecting the population, not so much spectacular operations against the big drug cartels, but placing more emphasis on patrols, on security, on better intelligence, so they know more what's going on. They're not just sending troops in, but they're investigating what is happening and trying to get to the bottom of how these organizations work. So we will have to see if this does make a difference. I mean, there are lots of doubts and there have been criticisms that setting up a national gendarmerie will just parallel and conflict with the work of the federal police. But they're supposed to have different roles, but we don't know if that's the way it'll work out. So really, we have to suspend judgment, I think, for a while, and to see how the new policies are implemented. They're going to take a while to put into effect.
All right, and certainly, as you were saying, the new president, 46 years old, Enrique Peña Nieto, with bold promises when he was elected back in July.
The fight against crime will continue. Yes, with a new strategy to reduce violence and to protect, above anything else, the lives of Mexicans.
He's a new president from an old party, the PRI, which ruled for decades. Is it the same status quo for people who don't follow Mexican politics very closely? Whether it's Calderón, whether it's Peña Nieto, does it change anything?
Well, there is something very interesting. The name of this leading party in Mexico for ages now, the PRI, Partido Revolucionario Institucional, which means the Institutional Revolutionary Party, which is quite a strange combination. I mean, how can you be revolutionary on the one side and institutional on the other side? That's something quite unique. Is governing the country now for more than 100 years with an interruption recently under Calderon. But at the end of the day, the policy does not really change. It's really subject to the influence and the relationship with the United States. I just want to mention something in addition to what has been said about security in Mexico. I mean, I'm afraid to say that Acapulco is probably safer than Corsica. And I think that Miami is probably not as safe as Cancun is. So I think there are quite a lot of cliches about all this Latin, remote part of the world. Things are not that bad or good, black or white. And still for the Mexican policy, the PRI now will probably try to make things getting better. But things now are already getting better. I mean, few people know that Mexico is one of the fastest growing economy in this part of the world. Very few people know that Mexico is not a third world country anymore. And I think that part of the success is also due to the federal system. And in Mexico, the local governors have a real great power. It's just like the American organization. It's quite similar to what happens in the United States. Still, to answer your question, we will have to wait and see what the new president will do to make a balance between what has been done before and what will be done.
All right,
after.
I'm going to go check the crime figures on Corsica to check up on that. I have a little nagging doubt, but I'll look it up.
Okay, well, if you invite me next time, we'll talk about it.
Okay, it's a deal.
I bet I'm going to win that.
Okay, all right. It's a bet. Jean-Marc Sanchez, thank you for being with us. I want to thank Frederick Davis, Miguel Martinez, and Colin Harding for being with us from London. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.